Alright guys, such comic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The roster drama continues. 11 of the CDL teams for next season. We believe we pretty much know what they're cooking up. The Ravens though, as it stands, there are still many questions around this organisation, not just the team, but also the organisation itself. A space station coming in, or are they not? There was a rumour that they were, then the rumour said they weren't. Now SSG are commenting on it publicly. Could there be something in that, especially with the team that some rumours are suggesting they might be looking to form? Very much enjoyed your thoughts on the comments, because there's lots of drama if these players do get CDL spots. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into today. Thought there were some nice replies to this. Name a former COD pro that deserves way more respect. We've got aBeZy shouts, we've got Neslo shouts, we've got Jimbo shouts, that guy didn't miss, among many other players. I mean, of course, Huke is maybe a valid answer, but a former pro player would be the assessment there. Havoc also could fall into this category, I suppose. He actually gave his thoughts on Black Ops 7 from a casual perspective. I want to know your guys' thoughts on this really, because of course Battlefield 6 is also out and there is definitely going to be competition between the two franchises. I think it's good the Battlefield is here because once again it gives that competition where Battlefield is like the gritty, realistic, wartime kind of shooter, right? In theory anyway, and caters to player base who tends to like that. When Battlefield wasn't quite as competitive as a franchise over the last few years, Infinity Ward had an excuse to kind of do that to their games, and I don't think that was to the best of COD. I think COD did its best when it's an arcade shooter, and that's what we have in BO7, and that gives it the differentiation from Battlefield. Now, for very casual players, especially those who don't like movement and stuff, which I could totally understand, certainly for newer players or players who just, you know, play at night on the big screen TV at home, they're not probably going to like BO7 as much as they're going to like Battlefield. I get that perspective, but also COD is still built on a casual audience fundamentally. So there's a bit of a debate here right now. What are the casual players going to think about it? I'm hoping that BO7 does well with respect to Black Ops or Battlefield 6, especially from the casual player perspective, because I think BO7 has made a lot of things, a lot of good decisions. Whether it really works out and whether the game is actually that good, you know, obviously that's a question mark, right? But I do think that Black Ops 7, Traixx have done a lot of things right on paper. So if it doesn't quite perform, certainly from like the casual audience perspective, and they all go and play Battlefield instead, then Infinity Ward will probably be free to do whatever they want to the franchise again, which I'm not sure if that's necessarily gonna be a good idea. So let's just dive into the Rostermania stuff, because as it stands, 28 of the 48 players are locked in. Of course, we're pretty sure we know what they're going to do, but some of the players, of course, have not been made official quite yet. OpTic are locked, Thieves are locked, FaZe are locked, ReeaL Falcons are locked, but you know, are they really going to be in the conversation at the top of the league? Maybe, but also maybe not. Toronto, they're locked in as well. Gentlemate, as it stands, all rumoured, of course. Surge, that's a fully rumoured team as well. Again, some of these teams, they may be waiting because that's Gentlemate's team. We've known it for a very long time now. The question is, are they going to rebrand? You know, why do we still have the bloody LAG logo in the middle of the screen here? Like, get that off my screen as soon as possible. Estriel's to stay on Rokkr. The other guys we're not so sure. Of course, Miami have been confirmed. Maybe they haven't officially confirmed, of course, MettalZ returning yet, but that will be the case, I imagine, in due course. Still rumours about Nastie to Boston, but we're pretty sure we know what most of these teams are doing. Cloud9, among others. Cloud9, a very interesting team to me with this Mac, Afro, Vivid and Beans roster. I'll actually share what Octane had to say on this in a second, because he reckons that team could be pretty good. I don't necessarily disagree. You know, I do like that team, kind of. They might not be good, but I kind of see what Cloud9 are going for there. The question then, of course, comes to the Ravens. Now, Slasher, I mean, they're saying confirmed, I guess because they never got rid of him, right? And maybe his contract is such that he's going to stay. So, and Slasher we think will be there. I don't know if that's like official precisely. It's not like they've tweeted out Slasher's coming back for the 2026 season, but I'm pretty sure that is going to be happening. But regardless, these are your CDL teams for next season. Which are going to be any good, I don't really know. And can the Ravens do a better job? I think that's the key question. If you're Ravens, you're trying to make champs. That's the goal, isn't it, really? Maybe you're trying to replicate what they managed at the start of last season, which was particularly impressive in hindsight. You know you've got Slasher on board. You know your Search and Destroy is going to be pretty solid at the very least. You're looking at Surge, which is a team of, you know, there's some risk factor there for sure. You're looking at Rokkr. You're looking at Cloud9. You know, maybe you're even looking a bit at ReeaL or maybe at Boston, depending on whether you think they can keep up their form from last season, which I personally think that they can. But, you know, effectively those teams I've mentioned, right? Rokkr, Cloud9, Ravens, Surge, really, I guess, are the teams that you'd expect to be fighting it out for the not making champs, effectively, right? And those 8 seeds to try and lock that in. So if you're Ravens, you've got to look at these other teams and think, okay, could we do a better job than they have done? Maybe the answer is yes, but maybe it's no. And that depends to some degree on which other players they pick up. If it is going to be Slasher and Craze, that's a solid start, but where do you go from there? Especially when, historically anyway, Slasher doesn't really like to team with rookies, right? He doesn't have a great record of doing so. He prefers to team with people who either he knows or at least have some level of experience, which is why some of these rumours about SSG have now got a little bit interesting, because this was doing the rounds of some potential rosters, and, well, SSG were put together with Slasher, Craze, and then Renegade and Bounds off of the OpTic Halo team. Now, is there any value in this? Is this coming from anywhere reputable? Probably not, but SSG themselves actually did decide to comment on it.
Beans, Afro, Mac,
Vivid. I actually have no idea.
Hear me out. I actually don't hate this team. I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion.
No idea. I can leave.
And I know people are going to hate this team.
No, I mean, you don't have to. Just,
I actually don't mind that team. I don't mind it. I feel like that's going to be a sneaky good team for some reason. I think if anybody's flexing that isn't Mac, I think it's a mistake. Yeah, but as of right now, in every single metric, they are better than their Cold War team. By every metric under the sun at the moment. They've only played 2 tournaments. They've made finals of won one of them. And every metric compared to their Cold War season as of right now, at that point in the season and this point in the season, this team is better. Record, map pool, map set, fucking...
SSG? So, like, is it actually going to be SSG, Slasher, Renegade, Bound, and Craze? Wait, that's not is that rumored? Yeah, SSG is not confirmed, I don't think. I don't think SSG is confirmed. If that was the team, though, that would be insane. If that was the team, chat, wouldn't that be kind of crazy? If they picked up Renegade and Bound? Chad, that would actually be insane. Somebody said Rokkr is ass. Who's what's Rokkr's team? G2.
Octane there with a number of interesting opinions on the FaZe team, on the Cloud9 team and whatever, but I really just wanted to dive into this Space Station stuff again, because Space Station Gaming, they quote tweeted this and said really not that crazy when you think about it. Now, look, I think they're probably just baiting here. That the latest rumor is that SSG were very close to making this happen. They wanted to come into the CDL, but the deadline was missed by the league, which is, I mean, how many times have we heard this now, that they missed the CDL deadline? Maybe the CDL deadline just needs to change, but whatever. They didn't want to run a Los Angeles Guerrillas Gentlemates situation, so they've just pulled out of the deal. And look, next year, maybe they can come in at a better time frame or something like that, get the deal done earlier, I don't know. But clearly Space Station are interested in being in the league. They would like to be based out of Salt Lake City, of course, rather than being partnered with a team based out of Carolina. So I understand why it might well have fallen through. But who knows? Maybe there's exceptions. Maybe they can still get things done. And actually, there is a lot of sense in here, although it would be very controversial, right? Because Slasher and Craze, as I've just said, Slasher will not like to team with players that are all brand new, right? Like Slasher's, what, 31 or something like that. He doesn't want to team with a load of cracked out 18-year-olds. And not saying Craze is exactly that, but like if you're going to bring in kids that are brand new and just, well, unknown quantities and just stack them alongside Slasher, I don't imagine that team culture and team chemistry is going to work especially well. Clayster ran into this, right? Clayster said that towards the end of his career, he was teaming with people that like he was struggling to get along with in and outside of the game, because he was just so much more experienced and like so much more mature as a person, right? Because he was like 30, teaming with 18-year-olds, and that can be problematic when you're the leader and you're trying to get everyone on the same page. So, you know, I can understand why Slasher is probably not very keen to go down that route. So this is a route route that they could take, even if it's not Space Station Gaming, right? We know that Renegade and Bounds, they said that they're interested in going to Black Ops 7. Now, whether you believe those tweets or not, they told Hex, oh, we were just joking around, like, you know, come on, boss. I didn't mean it, right? Like, through where they did the free agent for Black Ops 7 tweets, and Hex was like, you are not a free agent. I do not know what you were talking about. You better focus up and try and win this Halo World Championship real quick. The Space Station have history with those guys in Halo. And even if it's not Space Station, is this something that Ravens could do? Because instead of going and bringing back TJ Halley, instead of going and, you know, maybe getting someone like Priester, world champion, right? There's plenty of guys out there. But if you put together a team, just let's say hypothetically, Slasher, Priester, TJ, Craze, you know, is that really going to, first of all, be exciting? Is it going to turn heads massively? Probably not. Is it going to be, you kind of know what you're going to get there, really? But, and you've maybe got some upside in Craze, but it's probably not spectacular, right? So the other option is to kind of do what Surge have done and take some risk, because they're bringing in legends, we believe, with Abe, with Lunas, and with Gwyn rounding out that team. There's definitely some questions on whether that's going to be any good, but even if it's not Space Station Gaming, I do see the vision here of bringing in two guys from Halo who have experience. They have championship level experience. Slasher would be able to probably get along with those guys better. Yeah, they're COD rookies, but they have a lot of experience at the top level of esports, and I think that's probably a dynamic that Slasher would be happier to go down, and maybe the Ravens would be as well. Now, on the other hand, they have no experience playing competitive Call of Duty. We have no idea how good Legend is going to be. Is he going to turn into Shotzzy? Is he going to turn into Formal? Many of the other great guys that have come over from Halo and Enable, for example, and done great things in COD. Neptune, even in recent times, would be a similar example. Possibly, right? But to take the risk on those other guys as well, like, I think Renegade especially could be really, really good, but there are questions. This guy, JRay4K, says, Bound and Renegade were getting bounced out of CMGs by kids with $40 earned, but sure, give him a CDL spot and give him a salary. And this has been causing a lot of controversy. Even Brian Viox actually said this, sorry not sorry, but no pro from another esport coming in and taking a spot from a hard-working pro or challengers player will get my respect. Challengers should be a mandatory for anyone. Now, I don't agree with this take. I understand where he's coming from, but, you know, when Formal came over, when Shotzzy came over, you know, they champions in their respective field, even Mental, right? Okay, Mental didn't do a great job when he first came over to COD and Los Angeles Guerrillas back in Cold War, but he was like the Gears of War GOAT, right? So I think, you know, there is a level of respect that has to be attached to players who have won and been at the top of their respective fields. I do understand the perspective that there are some top quality players that I've just mentioned that are either very recent pro players or top challenger players who have grinded for some time. They deserve the spot more, I guess you could argue. But is that necessarily the way that teams should think? They will look at upside, right? They'll look at maybe someone like Tej and they'll think, all right, we know what we're going to get there. But if we bring Renegade and Bound in, then who knows, right? We might be horrifically bad, but let's be honest, they're building the team last of anyone anyway. They've not got much money to spend. They're not expected to make champs anyway. What if Renegade and Bounds turn out to be godlike players and they can sell them for a massive buyout? Or they actually just end up placing well in their own right, you know? So that's why there's debate on this, because some would say, well, Renegade and Bound are probably not going to be very good when they first pick up the game playing Respawn and all these things. Yeah, totally understand that. But with the right kind of system around them, they may have more upside, because not only do they have the skill, but they've got that championship winning experience that also could provide serious value. So intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.